there a housing bubble right now here in Canada? In this video, I'm going to go over the question everybody's been asking and wondering over the last year. Is there a housing bubble right now in Canada? Hey, welcome back everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's Mark Coons here with Coldwell Banker, Horizon Realty, and I'm going over the real estate market here, especially in Kelowna, and we're looking at it. So if you haven't already, please hit that like button, tap that subscribe button, and hit that bell so you don't miss out on future videos of living here in Kelowna. It really just helps me do what I do. And I got people call me all the time, every day, every week, looking to either invest here in Kelowna, or maybe they're looking to move here, move their family, single persons, anything that I can do for you. Reach out, pick up that phone, shoot me a text, email, whatever works for you. I got your back. All right, so let's just jump right into it. I mean, it's not a surprise or not anything new that home prices have really increased this past year. You know, it just seems like they've been increasing and increasing to where right now the prices what you're seeing today isn't even really recognizable to where housing prices were last year. So things are starting to change a little bit, and maybe the top is here, but because now interest rates have started to increase from the rock bottom rates that they had, and so we're now seeing some stuff cool off. And this is where, you know, a lot of people are maybe cautious and maybe looking at things, and every factor, every region's going to have their own different, but we're going to look and really, is there a housing bubble right now in Canada? And, you know, there's a lot of little general mini markets, and maybe is it a temporary lull, or is it, you know, a sign of worse things to come? We're going to look at we're going to look at the definition. First off, a housing bubble, and then we're going to look at the specific numbers in behind it, because, you know, we have to look at the triggers and look into some other factors of what the definition of a housing bubble is, and to see if we're going to have it. So stay tuned to this video and watch to the end, because I'm going to go over some of the top investment opportunities right now in Kelowna, and maybe it's something to keep watch on for the next year. All right, so first off, we're just going to look into what exactly is a housing bubble and what's the definition of the housing bubble. So this is from Investopedia.com, and the definition of a housing bubble is a housing bubble or real estate bubble is a run up on housing prices fueled by demand, speculation, and exuberant spending to the point of collapse. All right, so let's break it down, but it also goes on to read, a housing bubble usually starts with an increase in demand in the face of limited supply, which we have been experiencing, I think, throughout Canada. So that would check the mark. Definitely, I can't speak for the rest of Canada, but that is currently the case right now in Kelowna anyways, with limited supply, and which also takes a relatively extended period of time to replenish the limited supply. So we can't increase the supply too much, because there is also a lag in being able to increase housing. You can't just put up a house tomorrow because somebody wants a house. It takes time and lead time, and 1 year, 2 years, 5 years if you're going to go to a higher, bigger multifamily type of unit. So there's a lot of lead time in it, and you can't really keep up with today's demand. And so that's really part of the equation, right? So we have two parts of the equation there, but it also goes on to read, speculators pour money into the market, further driving up demand. Okay, well, that may or may not be happening. It's tough to know if they're speculators or if the numbers are making sense, that sort of thing. So really, we're going to look into why to look at and really differentiating what a speculator might be and compared to an investor. Because some people will also kind of bunch those both together and not necessarily quite the same thing. And then so what happens with the housing bubble, the last part of it, and so at some point the demand's going to decrease, so the speculators are going to leave, or stagnates, means, you know, there's not enough homes coming on the market to really keep the market moving and stuff like that, keep people moving here, keep the demand here. You have to have reasons to bring people to it and have the demand. Okay, so we're going to look at that. So the demand decreases or stagnates at the same time supply increases. So everything decreases and then supply increases, and so you got a flood of new homes on the market, but you don't have any demand really to do it. So that's really where the bubble is, and that really just pops the bubble where everything kind of just drops and just bursts. So resulting in a sharp drop in prices and the bubble burst is what the definition is. So let's unpack that. Let's look into it from Kelowna's perspective. Do we have a housing bubble right now in Kelowna? And we're going to go over it because there are some articles right now from Financial Post, that sort of thing, that they're expecting a significant decline. So we're going to look at that, and it's a lot to go over. So let's unpack it and let's see what we can do with it. And for the most part, I'm going to be looking at Kelowna's real estate market. Every region has their own markets, and they're all little mini markets within the whole Canadian real estate market. And even in Kelowna's real estate market, I have what I consider all little mini markets, whether it's condos. That's a mini market I consider. Even age restricted condos, that's another subsection to that mini market of the condo market. And then you have townhouses, and then there's all the different types of little mini markets is what I would concern. And then you have the single family homes. So all little different mini markets, and it really depends. It really just helps to differentiate who the potential buyer is and what kind of things. Like, what are we going to have a surplus of bachelor suites on the market? Or is there a good, so should I buy it, or should I go invest in, 1 or 2 bedroom units, because they're not building as many 1 or 2 bedroom units anymore, right? So that's just how we look at it. All the little different mini markets, supply and demand, to really help protect your investment, whether you're an investor, you're looking to live in it, that sort of thing. So we just look at all the different subsections, just to really know, is it a good market to really kind of help you get away from some of the boomer busts, right? So you know how you're competing with all the other people on the market. So right now we're going to look at Canada as a whole, and it's really going to be subject to a lot of different issues, right? One of the main things right now is inflation, and it's quite out of control. Last month, it was 6.7%, which is the highest it's ever been since 1990s. So that's part of the increase in interest rates will hopefully start to bring some of that down. But it's really just going to be it's a big impact to potential buyers, which is also going to cause less demand out there. So maybe that is part of the equation, that we're going to see less demand because of the rise of interest rates. So from an article I read in the Financial Post, they're forecasting a cooling in the market. And Tony Sillo, who's the director of Canada Economics at Oxford, he is predicting that beginning this autumn, home prices are going to decline by 24% by mid-2024. All right, so that is, if you take the next 2 years, that's predicting a drop in price 12% year over year. So we're talking about next year, your home is going to be worth 12% less, and then by next 2 years from now, it's going to be worth a full 24% down. If you look at the overall market increase, what we've seen in the last year, home prices have increased in Kelowna area about 30%, 30 to 40%, anywhere from there, right? So he's predicting that, you're probably from before COVID, with that 24% off, if you owned a home before COVID, your home will only be up about 7% from your old previous COVID house, prior COVID house value. So that's just something really just to unpack, and he goes into a number of different factors. What is, there's 3 things with the Bank of Canada increasing the interest rates, and it's just people that have, exorbitant amount of debt out there right now, which, it's all smart stuff. It's all by the books, that sort of thing. But we're looking at it, and a lot of these interest rate increases and everything like that are all lagging factors, really factoring into the market. All right, so let's unpack all of this, and let's go back to the original question, right? So the original question, is there going to be a housing bubble in 2022, 2023, maybe 2024 if we expand it out a little bit? So we've already looked at the definition of the housing bubble. So, but I think everybody in all the professionals say that there's probably going to be some sort of correction. What is it going to actually physically look like? We have to look at the bigger scale of things and how much demand there is, because really for the demand, what you have to have for the housing bubble is really for an increase in supply and the demand really to drop off. So are we going to see that? Potentially not. Let's look into a number of things that the government of Canada is doing. Let's look at what actually human behaviors are having. We've got some other things happening. So in Kelowna, it's one of the most desirable places in Canada. We have people moving here from all over the world, all over the country, and it's one of the most desirable places. So, and I do have people calling me every day. So if that is you, please reach out, pick up that phone, shoot me an email, text, whatever works for you. We got your back. Let's talk about what it's like living here in Canada and if it's going to work for you. Or maybe you're just looking to invest. This is a great place to invest. We have a lot of people, a lot of higher density needed, that sort of thing. So it is a great place to invest. And, I'm not a politician, but I'd love to let you know what there is happening right now in Canada, but also in Kelowna, because there's a lot of good things happening too. So let's look into the demand and some projections for demand. One basis for demand is going to be the overall population. Canada last year alone brought 401,000 immigrants into Canada, which was an increase that's an overall population of Canada of 1%. So with the population right now, we're sitting around 338 million people. We saw 401,000 immigrants, and they're predicting that to continue for the next 2 or 3 years. So what we're seeing is a 1% demand projected over the next 2-3 years. So we're going to have a total of 3% change in the next 3 years in the overall. With the amount of people, I'm assuming that the politicians and to get residency, and the government of Canada really looks at it. I'm sure there's going to be a factor of, can you afford to live here in Canada based on this criteria. Maybe it's not a factor where you can afford to own a place, but as long as you can afford the rent that you would do. So what we're going to see in Canada over the next 3 years at least is going to be a 3% more population for housing. Whether that housing is for rental properties, or is that going to be for people purchasing their homes or condos, or there's always going to be the spillover. And so we're bringing about 3% more demand because everybody needs a roof over their head. The question is, are we keeping up with supply? So that takes us to the other side of the equation is, we can't keep up with supply right now. I can't speak for other markets, but generally speaking, supply isn't even close right now. If I'm just looking at Kelowna right now, and there's such a lag in the supply increase that we're about probably 10 years behind the actual supply curve to have enough supply out there. So even before the pandemic started, there has been a need for more supply. Really since 2016, it really just the market here in Kelowna has really taken off, and just haven't been able to keep up with it. And compounded now with supply chain issues, labor shortages in the trades, so to increase supply. And public service announcement, actually, if you're looking to start a business and you're looking to get into Kelowna, get into the trades right now. All you have to do is do a good job. You can build a business and you'll have work for the rest of your life if you come to Kelowna. So we need you. Get into the trades and help the supply issue out. I mean, there's a demand for it, and there's a lack of workers and laborers out there. So get into it. Anyways, back to the topic. I digress. Maybe I am short-sighted with the overall picture, but from what I've seen and seen in history, and really any market really comes down to supply and demand. What we can see is as long as we don't have people getting out of the market, or a lot of housing all coming on at once, if we're seeing a 3% increase, well, we're going to have to see a 3% increase in housing in Canada overall, depending on where those people go, to really keep up with the current demand that the government has set out. So right now, if you had an idea, if you had to bank on what's going to happen here in Canada, I'm going to say no housing bubble. You have to have a number of those factors. A lot of what we're seeing for house increases, in my opinion, is going to be a lot on inflation. I mean, we've seen house appreciate 30%, but we've also seen 6% inflation, 7% inflation, month over month, right? So what you're paying for in the stores, how much of it is it an increase in overall spending, or how much is it an increase in overall inflation, right? So that's just something to keep a watch on. We're going to just make sure you're not over leveraged. And the difference right now between, I think everybody needs to know and be aware of the difference between a speculator and an investor is really, speculators are maybe not focused on the initial trend line. So as an investor, you're really focused on being able to make your property cash flow, or making good investments, sound investments that you go. And that's what we work with our clients on quite a bit, is just making sure we're making sound investments. Whether it's buying that one, even if they're going to live in it, let's always look at the end scenario. What's their exit strategy? So if you're going to live in a condo, what's your exit strategy? Yes, you could live in a bachelor suite for 1 or 2 years. By that time, 2 or 3 years comes up, you're going to probably outgrow that. So let's look at the overall situation. And maybe you're better off getting into a 1-bedroom and a den, or a 2-bedroom. And let's look at what the resale value will be, because maybe that 1-bedroom or the 2-bedroom might get you, another 5 years. So now you're in a different stage. And then when you go to sell it, you have to look at real estate as a long-term play, right? So there's always going to be ups and downs. Are we due for a correction? Yes. Are prices going to go down? Probably. Are they going to drop out significantly and hit rock bottom? Probably not. So that's my assumptions. And definitely, I think we're in for some changes here, something to keep watching. But I think a number of the factors, especially in Kelowna, are strong, and prices overall, I think your investment will be strong here. So that's one thing to look at. But if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out, shoot me an email, shoot me a text. I got your back.